I had a nice surprise this week. I had the opportunity to get together with one of my old seminary students who took classes with me online. So I got to meet him in person. And I was trying to share a bit about what facing up is. And I realized that I always go down so deep in the weeds. I need to be able to explain this simply. So I thought today I would just draw you a picture. And if you're listening, hopefully you can imagine this, but it might be worth looking at the actual video of this to see what I'm talking about. It's really pretty simple, at least in my mind, but maybe it's because I have a simple mind. So if this is human being, the whole box there that I have just drawn, let me get it all in the frame there, like that. Okay, so it is my contention that human beings are, you know, made up of like three levels. The first level is desire. The second level, I'm going to write it on the side here because I need to write in the middle, but story. And then the third level, the box on the top here, I'm calling being. Desire, story, and being. And so when we're born into the world, we are just creatures of pure desire. This line right here between desire and story is consciousness. So this is the big shift when we're little babies and we say our first word and our parents are so excited because it's as if we've come out of a coma. It's like we're there. We're part of the world of story and humanity. The human story can be thought of in three parts, which in the Christian tradition we call faith, hope, and love. But the problem with story, the second level, is that it gets broken down, and this happens as we grow. When we first enter the story, we just accept it for reality. But as we live, we recognize that the stories that we tell are maybe a piece of reality. They may touch reality, but they are not capital R reality. And various things break down the story. There are three primary, I call them specters, because they're like ghosts, they're like monsters. That's what they felt like to me when they broke down my story. Oh, and I skipped the point that this second line, the line between story and being, you could call the dark night. And this is like, it's called the dark night because it breaks down our story. The three pieces of this dark night, the three specters, are Inyarus, that's ignorance, and it's the fact. It's hard to read my writing, sorry about that, but ignorance, we don't know. So if my story were real, then it would have to be based on, the facts. And the problem with the facts is that I only know a tiny, tiny fraction of the facts. And so I'm going to draw dotted lines in these three vertical columns here because there are different ways of responding to this. So in Yarus or ignorance, when we run into that and we realize that our story is breaking down, it's the natural reaction is terror. And so what do? Well, we can't face that fact. And so we try to rebuild our story. And so we go from terror to, what was the word? I had a word that I liked better than the ones I've been using recently. Let me quickly look it up because I liked it. Oh, yeah. It's the word escape. So from terror, we move back to the story with some form of escape. We don't have an answer to this, right? There's no way to solve the fact that we are ignorant, that we only touch the tiniest fraction of all there is to know. So what do? We just hide from it. This is what in other videos I've called The Devil's Playground. And I will tell you, just true confession here, this week there's been plenty of escape in my life. My favorites are The Leech, where I latch on to other people's story to try to feel alive. Of course, there's a lot going on in the news these days, so I've been tempted to just sort of like watch every last, blow, everything that's happening with Donald Trump. It's never ending fun, is it not? But so, I can escape to someone else's story to kind of make me feel alive, but in a vicarious way, I'm leeching on to their story. So I've been guilty of the leech. Netflix. There's so many ways to leech. The other one that I'm guilty of is the zombie, where I just plunge myself into carnal pleasure. And that could be eating, it could be all kinds of things, but eating is one that, if I just sit here and eat some ice cream, then everything will be okay. And how do I make it okay? By fixing the story? No. By like dealing with Inyarus, this ignorance that I know. It's an escape. I'm just retreating to this 1D level of pure desire. So escape is natural, but we always wind up facing Inyaros again, which results in terror. And so we go around in this triangle where we're from escape to Inyaros tears apart our story, destroys our escape, which makes us afraid, which drives us back to escape. And there you go. What a miserable cycle. I'm going to do all the dark sides first, okay? The second specter, the second thing we deal with is the vanity of life, and I call this vanitas. I'm sorry this is so messy. I'm going to do a pretty version one of these days. But as we grow older, we recognize that our stories, the happy ending that's held out as the promise of the end of the story, it never pans out. And this throws us into despair. So I'm going to write the word despair in the third dimension of human existence, in the being. But nobody likes to live in despair. And so what do? We try to fix whatever problem we had. Despair and repair. This is the combo. So, money didn't make me happy. Well, maybe more money would make me happy. Or maybe it's not money. Maybe it's travel. Or maybe it's, whatever our thing is. Maybe if I had a bigger house. Maybe if I, whatever. We think that we can repair the story in some way, but vanitas is always there. It's Lucy with the football pulling it away, and then we're Charlie Brown, oh brother, and then we try again, and around this despair, repair, vanitas. There we go. The third specter is rapax, like the word rape, but maybe not quite that ghastly. It's just the fact that nature is red in tooth and claw, and that as we grow older, we realize that, wow, there's nobody really looking out for me except for me. I'm now, okay, there are people who care about me, but they always have their own angle. And we recognize that, we learn that if you don't behave in certain ways, you get rejected, because everybody has sort of this center of gravity of their own that they have to take care of. And so this just makes us mad. And so I'm going to write the word anger up here in the existential level of being. You're just mad at the world, mad at stupid people, stupid mosquitoes, stupid spiders, stupid whatever. And so what do? Well, with the mosquito, we swat them, anger and attack. When we encounter this fact that this desire for a story to help us find a place of belonging never works out, it makes us mad, and we attack people, and we get angry, and we lash out. And so we go around on this cycle, anger and attack, while dealing with rapax. All of these are not moving through the dark night. They are a way of coming to the dark night and having an allergic reaction. In the case of Inyarus, it's terror, so we escape. In the case of Vanitas, it's despair, so we try to fix it. We repair, despair and repair. In the case of Rapax, it makes us mad, and so we attack, anger and attack. These are not really facing the dark night. These are ways of avoiding the dark night. But now I'll pull out my colored pencils just to get fancy here and show you what this existential shift, this move from story to being that I'm talking so much about here, what it's about. When we recognize, when we face Inyaros and we see that our story is not something that can be true with a capital T because we just don't have the information, and we realize how little we know, rather than terror, we can choose wonder. So I'm going to write wonder here. And I write this in blue. I've color-coded these 3 movements. And by the way, these are the 3 movements that I'm going over. You might recognize this from the breathing exercise. But I can choose wonder. I can say, I don't know everything. I have all these questions I can't answer. I only see the tip of the iceberg, but wow. And this world is an amazing place. I'm going to set out on adventure. So when I enter back into the story, I enter back into the story not as an escape from terror, but as an expression of wonder. And so you can get that cycle going where you go out on your adventure and you realize constantly you're recognizing how little you know. Without Inyarus, there would be no wonder. It's the fact that we don't know that makes us go, wow, look at that vastness out there. And so this wonder is a way of saying yes to life in the face of Inyaros. The second specter, Vanitas, we saw before, the vanity of life can throw us into a cycle of despair and repair. But you don't have to. You don't have to despair. You can choose. I'm going to use the word gratitude. I know I've been using the word. Sorry, I'm writing a little slow. And wow, this is messy, but I hope you're able to kind of follow this if you're watching this. But okay, when I face the vanity of life, I can get angry that I can never reach the end of the rainbow, or I can accept that that's the case and choose to be grateful for the game of life, for the fact that I'm always part of this, always striving for something new. That like coming to the end of an adventure, if you think about it, if you came to the end of an adventure and everything was like perfect, that would be really boring. I mean, there's a sense in which this striving for more, this is deeply human, and just instead of fighting that and despairing about it, you just accept that and choose to be grateful and enter back into your story in a spirit of play. So instead of repairing your story, trying to make it a foundation for your life or find ultimate meaning, you recognize that the meaning is in this dynamic activity of entering life, playing life. And then you face the fact that you come to the end of the story and it's over and there's no happy ending. You might be happy, but it's not an ending. There's always needs to be more. And instead of despairing, you can give thanks for your life and say, well, how will I enter back into my life in a spirit of gratitude and play? So Vanitas, gratitude, play. That's the second movement, right? By the way. So, and then the third movement, when it comes to Rapax, yes, we can look at the world. We can look at the way everybody's in it for themselves, the way that even nature itself is set up, make us mad, can make us want to attack and defend, and but we don't have to. We can look at that and we can choose compassion. Now, compassion is the deepest reason for compassion is that we're all in the same boat. We all are struggling with these same issues. And so I can choose compassion for the mosquito And I was reading this backpacking book where the guy says, you know what, I've stopped swatting mosquitoes because I found that, I don't know if it's just bad karma or something. It seems like the more I swat them, the more appear. I protect myself from them, but, I just have decided not to lash out. I don't know what you think of that, but I think I'm going to try it next time I'm up in a swarm of mosquitoes. I'm going to just understand the mosquitoes are just like me. They're just like, looking for their next meal. Well, so am I. I'm looking for a good time. I'm looking for fulfillment. I'm looking for, well, sometimes up in the woods, my next meal. So, hey, we're all in the same boat. I choose compassion and then to treat other people and other things with kindness. Again, that doesn't mean just going along with everything or participating in other people's anger and attacks, but it does mean that in your heart you have this wideness for everyone and this decision to treat them with kindness. This is the third movement. Okay, so I hope that kind of is coming together. If you just like erase all this, complexity that I just put down on the page, in a sense, it's when you come to the end of your story and you recognize you're facing a dark night where your story is not reality, capital R. How will you respond to that? Will you run back to your story and hide from your story, try to escape? Will you try to fix your story? Will you like double down and attack other people who are not agreeing with your story? In other words, will you refuse to face the dark night, or will you work your way through it? And rather than living in terror because you don't know, choose wonder because wow, what a world. Rather than living in despair that you can never reach the happy ending, accept that and be grateful for this game that we play where we're constantly striving. That's what life is. Rather than being angry when we run into rockpox, we recognize that this world, everybody is self-centered. Everything is self-centered. By definition, is self-centered. Rather than just being mad and getting angry at people, accept that and choose compassion for people and kindness. So wonder, gratitude, and compassion are the three movements. My story of wonder is expressed at adventure. My choice of gratitude at the being level, the existential level, is expressed in my story as play. My choice of compassion at the existential or being level is expressed as kindness in my daily life. So I'm still very much alive in this world, living out a story, but instead of viewing my story as the foundation of my life, my story is really now an expression of my life. And it's at the same time facing the dark night and actually understanding that the dark night, it opens a door to a deeper level of existence that deeply enriches the story once you go through that door. Another way of thinking of this is it's yes or no. Wonder, gratitude, and compassion. Oops, I put the wrong color there. Wonder, gratitude, and compassion are all yeses to life. You face this darkness, and rather than this knee-jerk no, you say, you know what, I accept that, I'm in. Terror, terror and escape, despair and repair, anger and attack. These are all no to the dark night, no to myself as a three-dimensional being who is at the same time desire, story, and being. I will not go through the dark night. My story is the whole thing, and so it's a rejection really of this developmental stage, this existential shift. And if you ask me, why should you bother saying yes to life? I came up with a little phrase that I love. As I was walking to work yesterday, I really, here it is. It's not logical, it's biological. And by that, what I mean is, if you look at anything in nature, everything in nature chooses yes. It tries to be all that it can be for as long as it can be. It's not logical for a blade of grass to fall on a sidewalk and have to, force its way up through a crack and then get stepped on and have that horrible, tough life as a blade of grass in the crack on the sidewalk. But that blade of grass will try to be all the blade of grass that it can be for as long as it can be. That's natural. That's what nature does. That's biological. It's not logical. It doesn't fit in the story. You can't come up with a storied reason for these yeses to life. But when we come to this question of Hamlet, to be or not to be, the choice to be is natural. It is biological, not logical. Wonder, gratitude, and compassion. And if you want to experience these things, I welcome you to go to the homepage of the website. I'll put a link in this video, and just go through my 3 movements video and just practice grounding yourself in wonder, gratitude, and compassion. Also, I'm in the midst of putting together a course that I hope will be both succinct and very effective at helping people to move through from story to being, to make this existential shift and enter this life beyond belief that I keep talking about.